New, but more importantly, it's what's important in the world of content marketing. It's the news you need to lead in the practice of content. And for the best and best practices, you can always go to contentmarketinginstitute.com. So one item in the news this week, and I wonder what it could be. I wonder what it could possibly be. Oh, right. That's right. Unless you were under a rock this week, you could not miss the biggest, the only news really dominating our inboxes this week, and that is Twitter, the social media network, has agreed to be purchased by Elon Musk for the tidy sum of $44 billion. The world's richest person is buying the very small social media network because let's not forget that Twitter is barely in the top 15 of global social networks, behind, of course, companies like Facebook and Instagram by a factor of almost 10x. But it's also behind TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest. Yeah, that's right, even Pinterest has a bigger audience than Twitter. But of course, Twitter has a ton of notoriety for who is on the platform and who makes most use of it. And one of those new who's is actually the new owner, Mr. Elon Musk. Now, we won't spend too much time on the news here because, as I mentioned, it's being covered just about everywhere. And if your social feed is like mine, everybody has a hot take. Well, including us. We have one too, but we have ours for content practitioners and marketers out there. What does Elon Musk acquiring Twitter mean for marketing? Well, the real answer, nobody knows. If this were in any way a normal leverage buyout of a company that would be taken private, that is what Mr. Musk is doing here, we would most likely see big cost-cutting measures and a real attempt to free up cash flow in order to pay back the loans needed to facilitate the purchase. Except, in this case, it's quite the opposite. Mr. Musk has depended entirely upon his own ability and leverage to get his own assets done in order to get this deal done. According to reports, more than 2/3 of the financing package comes from Mr. Musk leveraging his own assets, including his ownership of stock in Tesla. So when Mr. Musk says it's, quote, not about the money, unquote, he's kind of right. Anything is possible when that money is off the table. He just really wants this company for some reason. But with a huge assumption, and I realize it's just that, let's assume for the moment that Mr. Musk actually does care about the success and the future success of Twitter. What can marketers expect? In the short term, our take, not a lot. Certainly not in the very short term. It's very unlikely we're going to see any of the extreme changes being predicted on both sides of the fence here, other than a lot of noisy news around free speech and some exodus of audiences of the platform in protest. The short-term reality is that brands will continue to utilize Twitter, engage audiences, release press announcements, field complaints from customers, and generally try to make something meaningful out of the Twitter platform as a way to promote content. So what are we telling our clients about Twitter? Well, for now, unless your point of view and sense of ethics compel you to leave the platform, and that's always, as always, a perfectly reasonable reason to leave any platform, well, then we're recommending it's business as usual for the moment. If you're finding success on Twitter, you'll probably continue to find that success. If you're not, it may be time to revisit that strategy anyway. The only thing I know for sure is that the number of potential outcomes, both good and bad for the Twitter, is just got a whole lot more plentiful than it even was a week ago. My personal hope is that for Twitter, the circus comes to an end, and that the really smart people at the company who are trying to build something great can actually be focused for a change on doing exactly that. And that's it. That's 3 minutes of news that I hope you need to lead in content marketing. I'm Robert Rose, and remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. I'll see you next week.